Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for today, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Good morning, Ellen.
Good morning, Mike.
Hey, last time around we talked about kind of walking around the yard and talking
hmm
about different things. And we didn't get to a couple of different things that we really kind of wanted to touch on. So we're going to try
Right.
to touch up, and catch up on those things today. And
Okay.
and one of them's hydrangeas in particular. We want to talk about mums, and we want to talk about moving and or dividing plants in particular. So let's start back up with hydrangeas. Uh, everybody knows, or at least I've told you that I'm one of the individuals who kind of answers the garden hotline. And we get quite a few questions about hydrangeas because hydrangeas can be kind of confusing. And there's two basic types of hydrangeas when it comes to how they bloom. One blooms on old wood or last year's wood, and one blooms on this year's growth. So you have to be careful about how you trim them because if you
Ooh,
trim the hydrangeas that bloom on old wood, if you trim them back to the ground, you're not going to get any blossoms this current year. The buds for, the flower buds for hydrangeas that bloom on old wood really kind of form in August and September of the previous year. So
okay.
those can, if you trim them back, okay, you're trimming off those flower buds. Now, the nice thing about those that bloom on new wood, you can actually trim those to the ground if you want. You probably shouldn't do that each and every year because that kind of, affects the overall health of the plant long term. So you kind of need to let those, grow also and just be kind of selective pruning of those two things. So you got to kind of be careful with these two things. And people say, well, I'm not getting any blossoms on my hydrangeas. So we walk through that old wood, new wood process. But there's also some other things that can affect your overall blossoming of the hydrangeas. Number one, if you give them too much fertilizer, they're not going to bloom. Just like anything else, you'll get a lot of vegetative
hmm
growth, but you won't get the blossoms that you want. If you give them too
Right.
much water, okay, it's also a problem. And like we also talked about the pruning, and then the those hydrangeas that bloom on old wood, their flower buds can actually be affected by the temperatures of winter and spring. We've had
hmm
some funny weather this year, and the
Right.
the up
Yes.
the up and down temperatures can really have an impact on those flower blossoms. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But if you have any further questions, you can obviously call the hotline about that. So,
Okay.
but I don't want to belabor that today. But we want to talk about mums also, right? Our
Yes, we
our
do.
our chrysanthemums.
Chrysanthemums.
Chrysanthemums and mums are one of the, at least according to the literature, they're one of the most popular plants, across the country as far as potted plants people give or they sell in nurseries. And a lot of us kind of like to try to hold them over, okay, in the in the
hmm
in the garden, okay, to
hmm
next year. But it's not always easy, is it?
No, no. I'm guilty myself. I have a tendency to look at the plants and say, ugh, and I take them out like late fall or even early spring. But early spring is when they kind of start growing again, although they grow very slowly. And so we might not be patient enough to leave them in there. So when spring comes and it starts warming up, you can take that winter protection off of those plants because they are hardy plants and they would probably bloom again this season. And you might want to fertilize them after the new growth gets a start.
Okay.
And
Okay. Can I comment on that, please, Ellen?
yeah, because
Okay.
I'm not sure about the fertilizer
Okay.
here.
Well, that and I've grown mums, or I've tried to grow mums. Okay. Sometimes I
Uh-huh.
try, and sometimes I'm successful. But you're right. They're slow coming around in the spring again, and so many people I think kind of give up on them. Okay, well, they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
grow. Well, here it is, the 10th of May. when we're recording this, and my mums are just starting to show some green, okay,
Okay.
at the base of the plants. So I'm going to kind of, be careful of what I do. I don't want to disturb them too much. I'm going to let them grow. Then as they start to
Okay.
grow, of course, I'll give them some fertilizer, and it can just be some regular 10-10-10
Oh, okay.
is perfectly fine. But then as they grow, if you want to get them to the point where they look like the mums that you buy in the nurseries, etc., you got to pinch them off a couple times. And
Okay.
I pinch mine off twice. Okay, once around Memorial Day when they get up, and I pinch them back to around 4 inches tall, and then again around the 4th of July. I pinch them back, okay, to about that same height, maybe a little bit taller, and that's going to encourage a lot of lateral branches, etc. So the plants actually get bushy. And then
Okay.
after that 4th of July pinch off, you kind of let them go. You keep them well watered, and they should form a nice globe of flowers for you. So keep
So in the early spring when we see them and they kind of look really bad, just kind of be patient
yeah,
and
be
let them
patient,
go.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then as far as moving and dividing plants, um, early in the spring is probably the best time to do that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
a cool, moist spring like we're currently having, it was kind of dry for a while, but it certainly has gotten a lot moister lately. Okay, prolongs that opportunity to divide plants. So,
Okay.
it's really when you get into the warmer weather that you got to be concerned about, the uh, moving of plants because they're not going to tolerate it really well. But as long as it
Mhm.
stays a little cooler and a little moisture, you can do that.
Oh, okay.
You can divide plants and you can move them to one place. I'm a plant mover.
Yeah. It sounds like it. Yeah.
So I've always done that. And Ellen, it kind of looks like we've kind of used up our time for today.
Okay.
So I think we covered three of our topics that we wanted to touch base on. So I
Good.
hope that was worthwhile for everybody. So,
All right.
so
Thank you.
okay. Thank you now.